Fine. Well, good evening, everybody.
Hi, Al.
Tony Lima from Ariana Center here tonight. Are you excited about Translation, the new trans talk show?
I can't wait. We've assembled such an amazing cast of trans leaders. It's going to be wonderful.
Awesome.
And we have Ryan.
And Ryan Young from Flockfest, the vice president of Flockfest.
I almost forgot what you looked like. I haven't seen you in forever, it feels like.
Very exciting. July 10th.
Yes,
Flockfest coming back to the beach. It's very exciting. Tickets are well underway. I wouldn't wait too long, by the way, if y'all are hearing me talk. Don't wait too long.
Yeah, we've never sold this many tickets by this point.
Yeah, that is very cool.
Oh, good. Congrats.
Last night I went to Barrita for Pride Mondays, their fundraiser for Sunday.
Oh, I need to get tickets now.
Well, welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. It's 7 p.m. Tuesday, April 13th, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight. The world's first live daily queer evening news show. Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight.
Thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ evening news show. Whatever happens, you will see it.
This evening, we bring you the news of and perspective representing the LGBTQ+ community from South Florida, America, and across the planet.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. Let's welcome anchor Tony Lima. He is the Chief Operating Officer of Ariana Center Trans Latina Florida, one of the nation's most important trans rights and services organizations in America. He is a longtime South Florida LGBTQ activist and political advocate. Tony is the anchor of the world's first weekly live trans talk show with trans hosts, and the show is called Translation. Welcome, Tony.
Hey, Al, so excited about Translation. I can't wait till we have that first pilot to share with everyone. We promise it's going to be spectacular.
First in the world. How exciting. Well, let's welcome anchor Ryan Young. He is Vice President for Flockfest, a strategic nonprofit fundraising foundation that supports LGBTQ charities. Flockfest, the legendary Fort Lauderdale Beach Festival, is returning July 10th. Yay! And we're all very excited. They also sponsor the weekly Pride Mondays at Barrita and Flamingo Wednesdays at Tats and Tacos. Good evening, Ryan.
Thanks, Al.
Exciting. All right, well, tonight we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Tuesday, April 13. We begin by queering up trans rights. States with anti-trans laws may not get to host the NCAA championships. The National Collegiate Athletic Association has issued a warning to states enacting or considering laws barring transgender athletes from competing under their gender identity. These locations may not get to host any NCAA championships. The NCAA said yesterday in a statement, quote, "The NCAA Board of Governors firmly and unequivocally supports the opportunity for transgender student athletes to compete in college sports. The NCAA has a long-standing policy, and our approach embraces the evolving science on this issue and is anchored in participation policies of both the International Olympic Committee and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. We are committed to ensuring that the NCAA championships are open for all who earn the right to compete in them. We again affirm, when determining where championships are held, NCAA policy directs that only locations where hosts can commit to providing an environment that is safe, healthy, and free of discrimination should be selected. The NCAA End quote, by the way. The NCAA pulled 7 championship events from North Carolina after it passed the infamous anti-LGBTQ plus House Bill 2 in 2016. Most of those provisions of HB 2 have now been repealed because of money. So far this year, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, South Dakota, West Virginia, Louisiana, and Idaho have taken up some forms of laws that will violate the NCAA policy. ACLU Director of Trans Justice, Chase Strangio, said, quote, "State lawmakers around the country should pay attention. Discriminating against transgender students is wrong, against the law, and it's costly."
It's bad for business ultimately, which is great, right? It's a really great stance to take, and I think the NCAA making all of their spaces affirming transgender people is a huge thing. We need more national associations and conglomerates like them to do similar things to help make equality a reality. Without that, we won't have it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I think all of these things are just people just struggling. You know, they're just struggling in some last-ditch effort to try and manipulate what everyone's doing, rather than just kind of keeping up with the times and being more progressive.
This is the proverbial shooting the cannon across your bow. And the bow that they shot across was in South Dakota and Arkansas and Tennessee and Louisiana. By the way, next year, the NCAA Final Four men's basketball tournament is in New Orleans. That is at risk now if they pass anti-trans laws. That's what scared the South Dakota governor, and we have proof in the pudding. In 2016, North Carolina did much of what we're watching in Arkansas, Tennessee, and other states, and they have gone back and repealed all of it because it cost them so much money. And the NCAA is saying, we're getting ready to do it to you. And by the way, congratulations, NCAA, for standing up for LGBTQ rights.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Fair model.
So now we queer up travel. Pete Buttigieg's hope to get back to cruising by summer. Wait, what?
What?
Here's an example of a non-story becoming the story in the LGBTQ community. Yesterday, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg stepped up to the microphone at the White House press briefing to answer questions that related to cruise ship travel. When asked, he said, quote, "The government hopes people will be able to get back to cruising by midsummer," end quote. But the out cabinet official ignited a different kind of public response when headlines reported that he said the government hopes people will be able to get back to cruising by midsummer. The cruising Buttigieg was referring to was sailing the seas aboard ships for leisure, a staple of the cruise and seaborne tourism industry. Not, the other one. It only took minutes for the LGBTQ community and also our haters to explode in social media. Gay men started making jokes about the first gay cabinet member talking about public sex. Radical right started to comment on the demise of America. Neither storyline was true. Buttigieg didn't exactly say the word cruising in his answer, but he did say the cruise sector. And he did say that the industry could be able to return this summer. The jokes were obvious, but the story is not completely true.
Well, I can see where people would make that connection, and I would certainly joke around about it myself, but,
It's hilarious.
It's not so much that the LGBTQ community jumped in and started making jokes, but the far right.
Yeah, that's not completely true. LGBT, especially gay men all over America, jumped right in. I've read many of the tweets and posts about cruising this summer and making the connection to Buttigieg being the first gay cabinet member. Note to self, be very cautious about your words and actions that will reappear in social media. And second, I think it's interesting. We think this is hilarious. We make it as a joke. Right. But equally, at the other end of the spectrum, there are people out there that are trolling that make us public enemy number one, using the exact same words. I think it's really interesting. It's a representation of what Donald Trump has done to America, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Next, Queer Up Entertainment. Brian Kenny's 9-Inch Night returns to Babylon as Queer as Folk is coming back. What gay men in the first decade of this millennia did not want to hang out with Brian Kenny. Perhaps even more, it's Pittsburgh, Liberty Avenue, and we are at the iconic Babylon Disco. One of the most iconic LGBTQ television shows in history is coming to an end. Storylines on sex, gay culture, porn, drugs, and you fill in the blank here, because with Queer as Folk, there was nothing that was off the table. Everyone at Queer News Tonight celebrates a reboot, but gone is Pittsburgh and those boys. There is an entire new cast of queer friends living in New Orleans. Stephen Dunn, the new executive producer, said, quote, "When the show originally aired, the idea of unapologetic queer stories on TV was so provocative that I felt I could only watch Queer as Folk in secret. But so much has changed in the last 20 years, and how wonderful it would be if the next generation didn't have to watch Queer as Folk alone in the dank basements, with the sound muted, but with their family and friends and the volume cranked all the way up to the max," end quote. Peacock has commissioned an 8-episode season for the new show, though no release date has been announced yet.
First off, in that quote from the executive producer of watching it secretly in the dank basement, I was thinking of Tony Lima. I just don't know why.
It was my story.
Yeah?
That's what I did to watch this show.
I hosted, it's very well known, I hosted a national circuit party in multiple cities called Return to Babylon. This show was absolutely iconic. Who can possibly forget 9-Inch Night at Babylon?
What I wonder is why New Orleans? Why was that like the city chosen to retell this story? But I do think it's necessary because there's a lot of kids, I'm thinking Middle America and other places where they don't have easy access to a Wilton Manors or a South Beach even, although South Beach not as much anymore, where they can see like happy queer people dealing with real issues. Yeah. Like
Right.
What an important show and what a great time to bring it back for the next generation.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, and I just look forward to seeing it, like having fun. And I mean, I just enjoyed watching it the first time. I wasn't really following it, you know, from the socio-political angle. I think I was too young at that point to really think about it.
Yeah,
But just
12-year-olds weren't really following the storylines at
Right.
Queer that closely. We get you. Thank you.
Only 4.
Only 4, yeah. Okay.
All right, let's queer up religion. Mormon-Owned BYU-TV lifts their ban on LGBTQ characters. The channel, which is owned and operated by the Mormon College Brigham Young University, admitted today its anti-LGBTQ policy after Canadian writers and producers publicly voiced concerns. This has led to changes at BYU-TV. The broadcaster's first show to feature queer people will be the Canadian family comedy Overlord and the Underwoods. It announced this week. According to showrunner Anthony Q. Farrell, who has a queer daughter himself, he and his writing team were previously told they couldn't include clearly identified LGBTQ plus characters due to the channel's connections with Brigham Young University. The university is the flagship educational institution of the Mormon Church and specifically prohibited homosexual behavior on campus until a few months ago. This discriminatory section of the university's honor code has now been removed, but BYU later confirmed that its principles against sexual conduct remain the same. A spokesperson for BYU-TV said, quote, "While BYU-TV has not referenced LGBTQ plus topics and characters in the 5 original scripted series it has aired to date, we desire to address subjects, including LGBTQ plus, that are important to our growing and diverse audience. There are no policies that would exclude the network from including characters who identify as LGBTQ plus, and BYU-TV is exploring ways to do so," end quote.
I just think it's interesting that in the university policy, it says that they police homosexual behavior or activity. Right. Doesn't that usually happen in like dorm rooms? How do you police something like that, right? It's just ridiculous.
Right. Well, it's just like, you know, what they try to do in the army by keeping people from being gay and trapping people and
Don't ask, don't tell.
It's don't ask, exactly. It's just the same old arguments over and over, but it never works.
That's
Right.
an interesting observation because that gives If I were Mormon, if I was living in Salt Lake City or other places in Utah, that would give me some hope if I was LGBT to both of the observations you just made. Because don't ask, don't tell was really super desirable. We understand in 21 that brought about a Barack Obama evolution of change. That brought about the Supreme Court's embracement of gay marriage. So don't ask, don't tell was middle ground. We have Liberty University out there as extremists, and the Mormons are kind of starting to be the middle ground of transition. So while they're not there yet, I think that there's some hope in what
There's progress. That's what you're saying. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
Now we queer up politics. Caitlyn Jenner may run for governor of California. Caitlyn Jenner is reportedly considering a run for governor of California if there's a recall election for Governor Gavin Newsom. The former Olympic champion and reality TV star has started talking with political consultants about a possible campaign should the recall organizers get enough signatures for an election. One of the politicos cited by Axios is longtime GOP fundraiser Carolyn Wren, who met Jenner via the American Unity Fund, a GOP nonprofit focused on LGBTQ issues. Wren helped organize the rally Donald Trump held on January 6, shortly before the Capitol insurrection. If Jenner does run and win the recall election, she would become California's first female governor and America's first transgender person to be elected governor of a state. But winning the election could be challenging. A new statewide poll suggests only 40% of California voters would support removing Newsom were the election to be held now. Jenner is a longtime Republican and stuck with her political beliefs, even after her 2015 transition made her publicly stand out from a party that pushes anti-transgender policies. Still, she believes her political beliefs can help conservatives better understand and accept trans Americans. Richard Grinnell has also indicated interest in a GOP run for California's governor.
Yuck.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't agree with her on anything that she says. So you just wouldn't get my support.
You know, it's funny. I am so excited that we're doing this story tonight with one of South Florida's leading trans activists anchoring Queer News tonight.
He's putting me on the spot.
Exactly, because I can't wait to see how he's going to thread the needle of supporting trans and not supporting trans. It's very interesting. I agree with you. I disagree with almost every single thing that Caitlyn Jenner has done since 2015. However, I do hope that there is a time. We've seen so much trans progress in terms of a cabinet secretary appointment by the president and the Senate. We see significant progress for trans. I just don't think the next step is Caitlyn Jenner.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think, to Caitlyn's point, having a transgender person out there to help show the GOP and other conservatives that trans people are just people, they're human beings, could be a very beneficial thing. I also, like you both, don't agree with anything that Caitlyn has to say. Don't agree with her public stances on politics, on anything at all, for that matter. So let's just hope that Gavin Newsom is still governor.
Yeah, that's the number one thing. Gavin, stay in.
Stay in, dude.
Exactly. Next, queer up gay culture. New street art in San Francisco honors the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. New street art has appeared in San Francisco to honor the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. It's also helped to raise the group a chunk of cash. The work is by the renowned San Francisco-based street artist Finch. The artist is best known for his trademark honey bears that he has placed around the city. Over the last couple of years, his artwork has risen dramatically in value, and prints he produces typically sell out within minutes. In 2020, he donated over $200,000 to charity. Her Majesty Sister Roma was involved in the announcement. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence first formed in San Francisco in 1979. A group of gay men in nun-like drag, they preached about the benefits of living authentic lives and warning against the dangers of religious moralizing. They evolved into a unique mixture of charity, protest group, and street performance, with missions around the world. The San Francisco mission has donated thousands of small grants to community causes over the years. Everyone at Queer News Tonight salutes the vital need that has always been served by the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence.
That is an absolute bullseye. I spent about 20 minutes this afternoon talking with somebody, and I really got much more excited about this story. Of course, it's important and valuable in terms of the celebration of Finch and what he has done. And my goodness, you're so uber generous to the LGBTQ community, especially in San Francisco. But really what's at stake here in terms of art installation and this recognition is the gay cultural significance of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. They served at a vital time, right in the peak of HIV, AIDS, and the cross-section of challenging as political protest in a peaceful way so many things in our churches, in our politics, in our medical decision-making. They challenged everything, and in a very positive way. And this reminds us how valuable and important our history is in our LGBTQ community, and how important the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence have been to the significance of our community. I salute this so completely.
Absolutely, and always with a little bit of humor too. That's definitely part of their brand. This story makes me think of Misty Eyes, who is our dear friend and part of our overall cast here at It's Happening Out Network, because Misty was a Sister of Perpetual Indulgence.
Formed it. I heard
yes,
just today.
Yes, that's when I first met Misty.
I just can't believe it.
I think they've sort of disappeared locally now, but they were around forever doing exactly the original Sisters in honor by really working with those ideals. It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I just love that they dress up in drag. As a Catholic school graduate, I just think the nun drag is hysterical.
I was going to say, as a former drag queen, I thought you were going to say that.
I am contractually by slavery and servitude of making note of Sister Roma. I can never speak of Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence without saying Her Majesty's name. And I just want to point out that that makeup does wonders, because when you are 147 years old, it covers every single flaw. We love you, Sister Roma. We do at Queer News Tonight.
On that note, that is our queer headlines for today. So let's catch up on the LGBTQ news surrounding COVID-19 with our special segment called Quarantine Quickies. Queer News Tonight has been LGBTQ America's most important news source on the pandemic, as we've reported on coronavirus on every news broadcast since January 6, 2020.
Tonight, we report the devastating effect coronavirus has had on the American and worldwide LGBT community in total cases and deaths. We also provide hope of a new light at the end of this long tunnel. As of tonight, more than 2,200,000 LGBTQ Americans have contracted COVID-19, and more than 40,000 LGBTQ Americans have died from coronavirus. As of today, more than 189,690,000 vaccination doses have been administered in the U.S.
That is our COVID-19 news for tonight. Next, we report that Happening Out Television Network is passionate about our support for the LGBTQ community. An example is Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine in supporting that partnership.
The network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ religious broadcast in the world, with more than 30,000 watching every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and it's totally live. We encourage you to tune in. Our campaign of sponsorship proudly supports Sunshine Cathedral is My Queer Church. Watch this.
I am Daniel Quintana, CFO of Domi Real Estate, and Sunshine Cathedral is My Queer Church.
We'd also like to thank our set designer, Concepto Modern Living, here in Fort Lauderdale for making this set in this amazing queer church campus possible.
Finally, we thank Queer News Tonight's hotel sponsor, Best Western I-95 Fort Lauderdale. This is the closest and best choice to the famous Wilton Drive, and our hosts and guests stay at this LGBTQ ally partner. We encourage you to stay here when visiting South Florida.
Welcome to Q's Q&A on LGBTQ health and pandemic. For nearly a year, this segment has been unique in America, answering your LGBTQ community questions about our unique health needs. We are proud to have Queer News Tonight health anchor, Dr. Howard Grossman.
He is an American pioneer in HIV/AIDS medical treatment and was the executive director of the American Academy of HIV Medicine. He's a nationally recognized medical expert and proud member of the LGBTQ community.
Well, before we move into this week's questions, we have Dr. Grossman here. Howard, tell us about some of the thoughts that you've had about the week's health news for our community.
Well, I think, hi everybody first, and thank you for having me. I'm coming to you from the gayest community in the gayest zip code. I think the newest news, of course, is the news about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The fact that today the FDA pulled it and said, stop giving it today. I think people need to understand exactly what's going on. This vaccine is very similar to the vaccine in Europe that has been problematic. There have been very, very few cases, but important cases of a particular clot in the brain that have happened mostly in young women. So here in the U.S., it's 6 cases out of 6 million doses that have been given, but they were serious. And I think that the anti-vaxxers will run with this, say, see, you shouldn't get a vaccine, they're really dangerous. But I think the real message is that they are watching very carefully and that they are willing to pull something as soon as there is even a minor signal of a problem. So I feel actually very reassured by the fact that the FDA and the CDC are watching this very closely. And none of this has happened with the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine, which most of us have gotten.
Yeah.
So
the vast majority of the injections have been Pfizer and Moderna. Let's jump right into the questions. We're going to come back to Johnson & Johnson in one of the questions, but let's jump right into the questions. And Tony, let's start with you.
The CDC is recommending COVID-19 vaccinations, but some doctors are suggesting that I, a healthy person, wait. How common is it for a U.S. primary care doctor to act against CDC guidelines?
It's actually pretty common for doctors not to know CDC guidelines, let alone act against them. Most doctors, I think, try to follow the guidelines, the things that are coming out, especially about something unknown like this, about like COVID, something that we're finding out as time goes on. I think they're wrong. I think it's irresponsible. I think it feeds into a scare tactic about yes, these vaccines have come out very quickly. Normally, it would take 3 to 5 years or more to develop a vaccine. You would know everything about it before it ever hit the market. We didn't have that time. And it makes me personally, as a doctor, angry when people won't get vaccinated, because it's one thing that they're putting their own lives at risk, and that's fine. But the more people don't get vaccinated, the more this virus has a chance to grow and mutate. And the mutations have not been very good. They've been more infectious, and they've made people sick. Now we're seeing a lot of younger people with some of these new variants of the virus. So those people who aren't getting vaccinated are putting the entire world at risk and this pandemic going. To me, that's just wrong.
Yeah. Ryan, we have another question about HIV.
I heard exciting news about an mRNA vaccine for HIV. Is this possibly a cure for already infected patients?
Well, it's fascinating, Ryan. It's I saw that this week, and it really is speculation. But I think the fact that these 2 COVID vaccines, first messenger RNA vaccines, And so when you think about how they work with COVID, is they're getting into your cell and they are causing your cell to make proteins that stick on the outside of the cell that look like those spike proteins that are floating behind you. And so it fools your body into making antibodies. So the idea is that if you could do this with HIV, it might be a more effective vaccine than other things that we've developed. So, I think it's exciting, but it's going to take a lot of research.
Howard, you talked at the top of our segment on health about Johnson & Johnson and the CDC's decision today of the all stop nationally. Our next question relates to Johnson & Johnson. Walk us through what you, from your seat, expect to see in the next days and weeks as it relates to Johnson & Johnson. Many people here in South Florida, for example, have had the J&J vaccine. What do you project we will see?
Well, as I said, Al, this is a very, very rare event. So 6 people out of 6 million doses. And it's so most of the people who've been vaccinated in Florida are older. The vast majority are over 60. That they haven't seen this, so people don't need to really be afraid. But I think they're being very cautious, and I'm not sure how long it's going to take to figure this out before they can see whether it is. Because what it seems to be, these 2 vaccines, the Johnson & Johnson and the European vaccine, they work by having a virus vector, a dead virus that gets into the cells. They seem to be causing some sort of rare antibody reaction. Platelets form a plug when you bleed, so normally a clot would form over it. But whatever's going on is activating these platelets inappropriately, so you're forming clots that shouldn't be there. And they really don't know yet what's going on, why that's happening. So now remember, with the swine flu vaccine in the 70s, which was rather a disaster, there you had 400 people who developed Guillain-Barré. Okay, so really, the surveillance is so much better now that at 6 people, they're stopping this to see what's going on.
Yeah, excellent. All right, well, we're obviously going to watch J&J very closely. That is tonight's Q&A on LGBTQ health and the pandemic. We're here every Tuesday with Dr. Howard Grossman to answer your questions. Do you need medical assistance? We're LGBT, of course you do. So we encourage you to contact Midway Specialty Care Center with 10 locations here in Florida, and especially Dr. Howard Grossman here in Wilton Manors. As he told you, apparently his bedroom is the gayest place on planet Earth. At least that's what I heard him say. And all across South Florida.
It's the doll collector.
Right. Thank you, Howard. Good seeing you again this week.
Next up, the Happening Out Television Network is the digital television sponsor for the 23rd annual OUTshine Film Festival, coming April 23rd to May 2nd. We will bring you interviews and stories that will bring one of America's most important LGBTQ film festivals jump off your screen. Watch this.
Get your tickets now for the 23rd annual edition of the OUTshine LGBTQ+ Film Festival, happening April 23rd to May 2nd. Don't miss our incredible grand opening drive-in event, followed by 10 days of non-stop films from here and all around the world that you can watch at home. Watch trailers and get your tickets at OUTshineFilm.com now.
Well, next up, Queer News Tonight is proud to support our local influencers, personalities, drag queens, artists, and entertainers here in South Florida. And tonight we are happy to feature designer, illustrator, and color enthusiast DePaul Vera.
Born in Tennessee to a conservative single mother home, his exposure to a limited worldview remained constant throughout his childhood. After settling in Kentucky, where homophobic bullies, rich white kids, and right-wing Christian values surrounded him, he aspired to become an artist to explore his differences with such values, equipping himself with the confidence and competence to continue his pursuit as a professional artist.
From there, he was fortunate to travel to Spain, where self-acceptance of his sexuality and achieving dreams came to fruition. Now, after obtaining his graduate degree in visual art and design, his work is grounded in the pursuit of understanding desire through curiously exploring different methods of art making, and honing his voice as an artist to not only understand his own privilege, but to question and challenge worldview perspectives.
To tell us more about his latest project, Happy to See You bathroom mural, located in the Hotel Gathering in Miami Beach, is designer, illustrator, and color enthusiast DePaul Vera. Welcome, DePaul, to Queer News Tonight.
Thank you for having me. Hi, Al.
And, well, we have to jump right in. First off, condolences on Kentucky. No, I'm only playing. I'm only kidding.
I don't miss it. It's been a while.
Yeah, exactly. As I was watching, I just can't imagine what it would be like. We did your story just recently about this bathroom mural at the Hotel Gathering, and we were fascinated by it because it's, by many people's standards, it's quite racy. And a mural in a bathroom, to be embracing art in the bathroom is unusual. Tell us about how this project came about and what was your inspiration and why you got involved in it.
Yeah, so the owner, Alex Guerrera, he went to New York and was inspired by Keith Haring's mural that he did. Right. And he texted me the idea that he wanted me to draw my dick marks on it. And I was under the impression that he was joking, but within like 24 hours, he was already like messaging me like, hey, go pick up the supplies. Let's get this done. Right. So yeah, we were inspired on the fly just to get it done. And it took about 72 hours and I was just having fun putting these dicks on walls.
Yeah. Now, is this something you've done before? Wait. Hold on. I went too fast there. Let me come back to that soundbite. I'm a news guy. I'm sorry, DePaul. I'm a news guy. Is this something you've done before?
No, this is my first mural, and I hope it's the first of many.
Yeah. I read somewhere, I can't remember where I read, that you invited people to inspire you in terms of the illustration. Explain, again, news guy, let me get the truth out there and give you an opportunity.
Yeah. And is there a video of that?
Yes, and is there video of the inspiration that you were...
OnlyFans.
Oh, I have to pay to go on to OnlyFans to see it? Genius.
I mean, we're all about the money these days.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
No, there's no video, unfortunately, but there are a lot of source images. So I asked for people to send me these dick pics that I would then illustrate digitally, and then I used a projector to then project them on the wall to paint over.
And DePaul, I'm curious, because when I read that, it was in one of the national LGBT sources, and I read that. I busted out laughing, going, wait, DePaul in South Beach doesn't have enough Grindr pictures of his own. He has to do a call out to have models help him do the project at the Gathering. Kind of explain that.
I mean, I'm not on Grindr, so I really I don't want to mess with that. And
maybe
it's interesting to. Oh, none of those apps. They're boring. It's more interesting to reach out to people who have a face and make that connection, that intimate connection. For me, it's more interesting.
All right, so you've completed this project. What has the guest reaction been at the Gathering?
You know, a lot of people, either they want me to paint theirs on the wall, like they wish they wouldn't have missed out, or it's like, or it's just some people, they don't notice it at all.
This, you know, as a news guy, again,
it just looks like lines.
DePaul, as a news guy, this story gets more and more interesting as we go. Has the response been positive for you and recognition for you as an artist?
Yeah,
it's been good.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit. No, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I think I think it's been very entertaining in the sense that people recognize my work now. It's become a part where my lines are distinct enough where people can be like, oh, that's DePaul, he did that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really means the world to me.
Yeah, and what's going to be, so you've done this event at the Gathering. I'm embarrassed to say, and we did this when we did the story about you. I have never been to the Gathering, which is shocking to me. And now I have every reason to go because I understand that Tony Lima is on this wall in some bathroom at the Gathering.
I may be. Al, you want to get painted? That's what you're suggesting.
I'm going to come down and I'll reach out to you
because I arrange it.
I was going to say I want to see it. I want to visit the Gathering and see your work. What's next for you?
Yay.
So you have done this. What will you be doing next?
You know, ideally, and what I wrote down in my journals is to do more mural projects with more businesses and companies. If anyone's interested, I'm available.
You know, DePaul, it's funny that you say that because we're broadcasting from what is really the gayest place on planet Earth, not your sign in terms of South Beach. It's really Wilton Manors here in Fort Lauderdale. Nice. And I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of guest houses and there's a lot of bars and there's a lot of gay restaurants. And there's a lot of places that would love murals, I'm sure, in their bathrooms. And all you have to do is to reach out to a new agent possibility and done. We're all set.
I would love that, Al. I would be so honored.
All right. So how, DePaul, seriously, it's a date. I really want to come down and meet you and see the Gathering and yes. your event. How do people that want to follow you, how do they get in touch with you? How do we follow you to start understanding DePaul Vera and your burgeoning career from lots of dicks on a bathroom wall? How do we do that?
You can go to my website, DePaulVera.com, or all my socials is at DePaul Vera, just my full name.
Yeah, just you. Well, DePaul, it's a fascinating story. The moment we read it, we knew, wait, we're talking about Biden and Trump and COVID and, oh, wait, let's talk about dicks on a wall at the Gathering in South Beach. It's a beautiful.
It's a great icebreaker.
It is a great story, and congratulations to you and to the owner of the Gathering for, first off, celebrating that mural in New York City, which I have seen. And so it's really, really a great story, and we wish you all the luck. DePaul,
thank you guys so much.
Great representation of the LGBTQ community in South Florida. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's today's news for the LGBTQ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates. Share this news. We're the only LGBTQ+ television live video news in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of anchors Tony Lima and Ryan Young, we will see you daily. And by the way, that means tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Good night.